Grandmaster Nightfalls are arguably the toughest endgame content in Destiny 2. Brought in to give players further endgame loot to chase in the form of upgrade materials, exotics and of course adept versions of Nightfall specific weapons, they really can smack the shit out of you if you don't bring your A game. The Glassway on Europa and the Proving Grounds on Nessus are quite possibly the toughest strikes in Destiny 2 to get the Grandmaster treatment, but what if Destiny 1 strikes were Grandmasters? Well, that's exactly what we're going to look at today. I cover lots of builds and guides aimed at helping you to complete Grandmasters, so why not look at what could be? Some Destiny 1 strikes have been reprised recently in Destiny 2 with the Fallen Saber and the Disgraced, even a few Nightmare Hunts bring back Destiny 1 favourites, albeit in a shorter form. However, some of Destiny 1's most infamous, iconic strikes still haven't and may never get the sweet Destiny 2 upgrade they deserve, so let's kick it off with what could be the hardest ever strike you'd ever face if it came to Destiny 2 as a Grandmaster.
Alakhul, the Darkblade, is one such.
Alakhul, the Darkblade, is a name that'll make Destiny 1 veterans shiver in fear. The Sunless Cell strike was one of the most unforgiving encounters you could face when it was introduced in the Taken King. It was used for a number of quests including forging the 3 exotic swords, Raise Lighter, Dark Drinker and Bolt Caster. Now the reason I think it'd make for a great Grandmaster is the final boss area. The Darkblade would intermittently disappear into the darkness throughout, not in a way where it's damage gated, but you're fighting in the dimly lit pit where only a few hive candles would light up accents around you. He would then often reappear, usually immediately behind you, and slam you with his large sword. Even when he was present in the area, he'd stalk you from the shadows whilst you'd fight off Thrall, Acolytes and Cursed Thrall. Imagine this boss room with an added hive champion or two, and the fact that you'll be near one shot by most enemies, including the boss, it'd make for an excellent GM. You can't forget the build up to the boss battle either though, as you battle through the grand halls within the Dreadnought. Areas where you have to unseal the hive doorway could prove difficult even with the distance allowed here for combat, whereas when you face the Taken immediately afterwards, there isn't much room for error during the waves of Taken and the mini boss. Finally, the Shrieker room is death personified, and I remember these encounters with extreme fondness, if not a little bit of despair, when they were Nightfalls and even during the Heroic Strike playlist. Finally, this could return with the Darkblade Helm for Titans and the Darkblade Spike Fusion Rifle as rewards. If the Dreadnought is to return during the Witch Queen DLC, I'd love to see this one come back. Likewise with the second Dreadnought strike, TheShield Brothers. It's probably not anywhere near as tough as the Sunless Cell, but even its encounters could offer some serious suffering. The build up to the boss room wouldn't give many players a run for their money, with probably only the tank encounter maybe being a sticking point. Chuck in a few barrier or unstoppable Cabal champions in this bit and it really could test you. The boss room however is the real deal. Valor Maw will chase you around a small circular room until you do enough damage to force a retreat. Then you've got Valor's Talon, who will also bombard you with missiles until again you do enough damage to force a retreat. Waves of ads spawn throughout, and if a champion or two become involved, it easily becomes an encounter with next to no room to breathe. The final part of this boss encounter has both the Shield Brothers attacking you as well as waves of ads. In a Grandmaster level, this would be a real test of your fireteam's resolve, with the added mechanic of a shield around one of the brothers, making it even tougher to defeat him without getting ground slammed, which in a GM is instant death. Completion could even offer the Treads Upon Stars scout rifle, making this strike's return on the Dreadnought another top GM challenge. The Wretched Eye is another Destiny 1 classic that may bring back nightmares. This Seaver themed strike takes you through the Plaguelands and into the heart of the Fallen Splicer operation. Again, the build up through the strike isn't too taxing, requiring you to destroy Seaver clusters on the way to the boss room. However, the ability to have both Fallen and Hive champions would make for some interesting battles along the way. Think Overlord champions and Unstoppable Ogres thrown into the mix. Speaking of Unstoppable Ogres, there's one Ogre in the boss fight which is quite literally unstoppable. You can't damage it and it won't ever despawn until you beat the boss. Korvik, the Splicer Priest, would annihilate any Guardian in an instant during a GM thanks to his Wretched Gaze Void Beam Rifle, add in his Seaver Teleport and short range ground stomp. This boss battle would be an epic Grandmaster challenge. With Fallen Shanks and Vandals spawning throughout, there's literally no place to hide. If this ever comes back, all I can say is good luck. Winter's Run was a favourite of mine in Destiny 1, and I'm sure this Venus Strike could still do bits in Destiny 2, especially as a Grandmaster. The Winter's Lair section could prove for some interesting champion encounters with both Fallen and Vex in combat here. The open section in the Cinders wouldn't be too difficult due to the range and high vantage points available. A few Overload champions might throw a spanner in the works though, to be honest. Methodically, you'd get to the Archon Priest fairly easily, but this encounter could prove a tough ask compared to what you've faced so far. Add spawn from all areas and the Vandal snipers would be lethal in Grandmasters as they blindside you more often than not. The boss will teleport and blast you throughout, with even a tether making him tough to pin down to sustain any meaningful DPS. Not to mention, there's a taken version of this strike, which if this too was thrown in as a Grandmaster on rotation, it'd make for a great addition, especially with the Stolen Wheel shotgun as a reward. Last up, and you couldn't have such a list of Grandmaster strikes without stepping into a war with the Cabal on Mars. Valas Tarak and his siege dancers wouldn't generally afford a tough Grandmaster whatsoever. The range allowed in these encounters, even with champions thrown into the mix, will make all the encounters a cakewalk. Not to mention the numerous cheese spots throughout, this Destiny 1 classic really hasn't stood the test of time as a strike worthy of being a GM, but you all know a good nostalgia hit is more than worth it. There's a lot of excellent value these strikes returning as Grandmasters could have. I can anticipate that the Sunless Cell and the TheShield Brothers strikes could return in some form if the rumours are true that the Dreadnought is set to return with Savathûn and the Witch Queen DLC in 2022. What would you like to see return as a Grandmaster in Destiny 2, or is there any Nightfall weapons from Destiny 1 you'd like to see reprised? If you enjoyed this journey down memory lane, why not hit the subscribe button if you're new here? I covered tons of builds and guides aimed at making the endgame of Destiny 2 accessible for everyone so that you too can get that loot. Liking this video really does help me out too and is always appreciated. Why not join our community Discord server as well? The links are down in the description. That's it for this one though, so on that, and as always, thank you very much for watching and I hope to see you next time.